Guys, I'm back here with another video. Here I have a rear engine mount with its mounting assembly. This is for Acura TSX 09 automatic. So the engine mount, the old one, is this one. It's pretty torn up, so that's why I'm changing it. The rear engine mount would go like this, facing the rear of the car. So this bolt here would go facing the rear. This little rubber heat shield will go facing the engine towards the front. So to get this off, first you need to remove the strut tower, the brace that's holding the two strut towers. So you remove that brace. I'll bring it here so you guys can see it. So you guys remove the strut tower brace from the top of the engine. You remove this with some 12mm sockets, 14mm socket. You remove that, get that out the way so you can squeeze your hand behind the engine between the firewall. So the mount would go facing like this. If you're looking at your engine from the front, this would go mounted onto your transmission with four bolts, and the fifth bolt would be the one crossing the mount itself. So to remove the mount, you would need to remove the strut tower brace. Then you proceed to, from the top, remove these two top bolts. This bolt will not come out because it'll hit the mount itself. So it won't come out until you actually remove all four bolts, plus the fifth one that crosses the mount itself. So first, from the top, remove these two, 17mm. You'll need a short 17mm for this one. You could probably use a breaker bar or something to get this one off. This one you'll need a 17mm wrench. You'll probably have to cheat using a 19mm or another 17mm on the top ear of the wrench to help you remove it. So from the bottom, you're gonna jack the car up. From the bottom, you're going to get this bolt over here and this one. You could use a 17mm socket and get these off. Depending on how high you could jack your car would be if you can use a breaker bar. I just used the wrench with someone with another wrench. Use that to cheat. After you get all the bolts from the assembly off, you'll be able to then proceed to the rest of the bolts. This one and this one you can remove without removing the assembly, but this one you would not be able to get to with everything mounted on the car because this would be in the way. This ear here, this part of the brace is in the way, so you will have to remove this in order to get to the mount itself. So it's pretty straightforward. I'm gonna see if I have enough battery to show you guys in the car how I'm gonna mount this. Let's go running. Okay, so here's the car, 09. Like I said, this is an automatic. This is where everything would go mounted. So like I said, from the top you'll be able to get just these two bolts and this one that crosses. Then from the bottom you remove the other two 17mm. take off the assembly that's holding the mount to the chassis, and then you remove the 3 bolts for the mount itself. I'm gonna try to pause this. Alright, so after you get the bolts tightened for the mount, it should look like this. So I already tightened them all. Now I'm just gonna introduce the assembly back onto the transmission. You have to keep in mind that you have to keep this bolt, the left top bolt, on, because you won't be able to put it back on unless you leave it on. Keep in mind, I'm doing this with one hand, not really paying attention to recording. I'm just trying to get the assembly in its place here. Okay, I'm just gonna pause this and be right back. All right, once you get the 2 top bolts in place, you want to keep in mind you don't want to tighten this yet. I just put this hand tight, you see? So just hand tight. This one just hand tight. You're gonna have to lift the engine or the transmission to get this up to height to push the connector that goes through. I'm gonna do that once I get all 4 bolts back in place. So I'll show you guys from the bottom when I place the 2 bottom bolts back, and then I'll show you when I lift and get the engine where it's supposed to go, so I can place the bolt that holds the assembly to the mount itself. Be right back. Alright, I'm gonna go and show you from the bottom here. Okay, so these are the 2 bolts that you would remove or be installing from the bottom of the mounting assembly. So again, I just hand tighten these first till I get them all in place. After they're all in place, I'll give them a good snug. So there you go, 2, and that's the top bolt. The other top bolt's right above this ear. So once you remove all 4 of those bolts, you can remove the one that crosses the mount, and then you'll be able to get to the 3 bolts that actually hold the mount in place. So get going here from the top, show you guys. Ugh. 2 top bolts, 2 bottom bolts, the one that crosses, and the 3 that hold the mount in place. I'll show you guys once I get everything almost done, ready. Alright, so once you tighten all of the bolts, you can reconnect your O2 sensor. Probably shouldn't do that just yet, but anyways, I'm gonna lift the car, the engine up in the transmission so I can get this to fall in place, and then I'll show you when I'm installing the strut tower, brace, and all that other good stuff. That's pretty much it though. So once you lift the car up, the engine and the transmission, and you align it, you finally just snug it up real tight, and there you go, you got your engine mount on. It's not easy, probably took me like 2 hours probably. At first I thought it was just these 2 and the one in the bottom, But then I found out there was the one beneath the ear here. That's what caused me to take about half hour more maybe. It's not easy, but it's very doable. So once you tighten up, you put your O2 sensor wire back, you connect that, you place your strut tower back, you tighten the 312s and the 14, 312s and the 14 here, and there you go.